Hello students, this is the second video of module 2, that is input output organization. So in the last video I was explaining you about accessing the IO devices. In accessing IO devices we were seeing about the IO interface for an input device. So similarly, not only for the input device, for output device also same structure will be there, but instead of the input device we'll be having the output device connected to this IO interface. So there is an IO interface which will be consisting of address decoder, control circuits, data and the status register. Okay, so these three will be connected to the bus lines. So I have told you that the bus, it will be consisting of three lines: the address lines, data lines and the control lines. So here the three lines of the bus will be connected to the three units of the IO interface. So IO interface, it will be consisting of three units here: address decoder. So that address decoder, for example, if the processor, it will be sending the address on the address line of the bus. So once the address has been sent, then it will be decoded by each and every device. Okay, so once it will be decoded, then the IO address, if it matches to that particular input or the output device, then that input or output device will respond to that processor's request. Okay, and next is control circuits. The control informations, like I am the one with whom you want to communicate, and all those type of messages or the status flags will be set, or some control signals will be sent from the input device, and these control signals through the control circuit, it will be passed to the control lines of the bus. And also there is a unit called as data and status register, so in which we will be transferring the actual data through the data register, and the status register, it will be consisting of when actually the input device is ready, and when it is ready to send the data, when it is ready to receive the data from the processor. So same thing is being explained here. So I have told you, like the address, if it is shared between the input output devices and the memory unit, then we call that type of address sharing as memory mapped IO. And here the processor repeatedly checks a status flag to achieve the synchronization between the processor and the IO devices, so which is called as a program controlled IO. So there are two types actually. Whenever a processor will be sending the data and address first, so that address, it will be mapped to that particular IO device, and if both a memory and the IO devices will be sharing the same address space, then we call it as memory mapped IO. And if the processor will repeatedly checks a status flag to achieve the synchronization between the processor and the IO devices, then this type of arrangement, it is called as program controlled IO. Okay, so example for this program controlled IO, you can see here. So there is test bit 0 status will be set here. So whenever the status will be 0, then it has to wait, and if the status will get changed to 1, then we can tell that there is some character which has been entered from the keyboard, and it has to be transferred to the processor, and from the processor it has to be transferred to the display unit in order to display. So that is the scenario here in this program. So initialize the memory point first, test S in, wait for the character to be entered, then read that character, then test S out, wait for the display to become ready, send character to display, store character and advance pointer, check if carriage return, if not, get another character, otherwise send line feed, call a subroutine to process the input line. So these are the instructions which are being sent from the processor in order to check whether there is something to be it will be checking the status, and also it will be waiting until and unless it becomes the status flag will be set to 1. So here these wait K and wait D are nothing but the wait for keyboard and wait for the display. That is, this is the input device and this is the output device. So the response from these two has to be given to the processor. Unless and until it receives some response, the processor will be keeping on waiting here. Okay, so this is the scenario which occurs in the program controlled IO. So in order to implement the IO operations, there are two mechanisms which will be used. One is the interrupts and the other one is the direct memory access. So we will be seeing both in detail. First one is interrupts. In interrupts, the synchronization is achieved by having the IO device send a special signal over the bus whenever it is ready for a data transfer operation. So interrupt means like there will be some ongoing program already which will be being executed by the processor, and once it will be getting some special signal indicating that some IO device wants to access the processor in order to provide the service or in order to take the service from the processor, then immediately the processor has to be the control from the ongoing program has to be transferred to the IO device. So that synchronization is achieved by having the IO device by sending some special signals over the bus. So whenever it is ready for the transfer of the data. So that is nothing but about the interrupts. What actually is direct memory access means, for high speed IO devices, the device interface transfer data directly to or from the memory without informing the processor. So that is the communication will be happening directly in between the memory and the IO devices. And this type of communication between the this type of communication in order to perform the IO operations is called as direct memory access. Okay, so first we will be seeing what is the interrupt, then we'll move on to the direct memory access. So here in interrupts, there are many situations where other tasks can be performed while waiting for an IO device to become ready. So here I told you in this program, the processor will be keeping on waiting unless and until it will be receiving the status flag set that everything is ready. You can perform the requested operation. So until and unless that time, the processor will be free itself. It will not be doing any work. So in order to make that time utilize that time effectively, that waiting time of the processor effectively, will be going for the interrupts. So how it is, how it can reduce the waiting time of the processor, we will see here. A hardware signal called as the interrupt will alert the processor when an IO device becomes ready. Interrupt request line is usually dedicated for this purpose. So I have told you that there are three lines in the bus. One is the address line, the other one is the data line, and the one more is the control line. So along with these three lines, we have one more line which is being dedicated for this interrupt signals. So that line will be called as interrupt request line. Okay, so whenever the IO device wants to communicate or it wants to get the data or service from the processor, then it will be enabling that line, which is the interrupt request line. For example, if we consider the compute and print routines, so these routines, what they will do is the compute routine, it will be computing the set of data, and once it has been computed, it will be giving the to the printer, that is the line printer, which will be printing one line at a time. Okay, so here what happens is first it has to compute one line, then it will be sending to the printer. The printer will be accepting the data which has to be printed, and it will be printing that line. The routine executed in response to an interrupt request is called as a interrupt service routine. So here print routine is the interrupt service routine, which is being executed only on demand, only on response to the interrupt request. So like that, transfer of control through the use of interrupts happens. The processor must inform the device that its request has been recognized by sending the interrupt acknowledgement signal. So once the interrupt request signal has been raised by any of the IO devices, in turn the processor also has to reply to that particular IO device that it has been acknowledged, and the processor will be providing the service for that particular IO device. So that will be given by the interrupt acknowledgement signal. So there are two signals here. One is the interrupt request signal, the other one is the interrupt acknowledgement signal. Okay, so one must therefore know the difference between the interrupt versus subroutine. Subroutine is nothing but, for example, if we are executing some program